Welcome to My Home Tool Class, where we're all about tools. Don't forget to join the group on Facebook. If you just go under groups, you'll find us at My Home Tool Class. Now, today what we're going to do, we're going to talk about a toolkit, or basic tools, I should say, for your home. Now, this isn't for home improvements, anything like that. This is just a basic toolkit that you would want to have in your home just to take care of little things that come up. Now, the very first thing that I want to talk about is a screwdriver. Now, I would suggest just to have something handy is an all-in-one screwdriver. Keeps you from having to have a whole set of screwdrivers. And you can put this in the junk drawer in the kitchen. Everybody's got one. And it'll help you when you need it. But the cool thing about this is where some of them have all the bits in the handle, some of them are like that. This one actually has them all here. So you just pull this out and you've got a bit here, which you have a large and a small, two different sizes, one on each end. Same on the other one. Again, you've got, here you got a Phillips, here you have a flat tip. And the other cool thing is that what they came out of is also a nut driver. So you can put it back in, you've got two different size nut drivers. Now the other cool thing about this particular screwdriver, not all of them are like this, but it can act like, it ratchets. It can act like a regular screwdriver. If you've got it on the center position, you go to put a screw in and you're putting pressure on it. You turn, you have to release your grip and grab it again and turn. But with the ratcheting feature, you just turn it to whether you're putting a screw in or taking it out. That way you can keep pressure on that screw. You move your hand and it just ratchets back. That way you can keep pressure on that screw. It actually makes it work a lot faster. But if you've got room in your shop for a whole, or your garage for a whole set of screwdrivers, it's nice to have some out there. But this is just something you can keep in the house in the drawer. Doesn't take up a whole lot of room. The other thing that I would suggest is that you have a hammer. And I would suggest a claw hammer because you're going to hang pictures, stuff like that. And not only will this put the nails in, but with a claw hammer, you've got a way to take them back out. And just a quick little hack, since a hammer's metal, it's much harder than your drywall. If you will put just a small piece of wood, something like that, in behind it, where it spreads out that pressure. When you go to take that nail out, you got to make sure it covers from here to here. But when you go to pull it out, that it won't mar your wall and you can get the nail out. So a good hammer, this is not a big hammer. You can get, you don't need a big framing hammer or anything like that, just to, hang pictures and stuff. The other thing I would suggest is that you have a good pair of scissors. These particular ones are actually pretty heavy duty scissors and I can resharpen them. But when it comes to things like Christmas and you're trying to wrap presents, nothing can be more irritating. You pick up a pair of scissors and they don't work. But we actually have some in the kitchen. I have some in my shop. Just super handy to have. The other thing I would suggest is a barbecue lighter, as opposed to just a regular Bic lighter hanging around the house. If your power goes out, you've got a way to light candles, because the end of this will get down in there to the wick and you're not burning your fingers like you would with a small Bic lighter. And you've got it for your barbecue grill. Good thing to have. Now let's talk a little bit about pliers. I would actually suggest that you have several different pairs of pliers. They're just really, really handy. These are called needle nose pliers. And they're called that because they taper down to a point. They are great for getting, if you drop something and you don't have a lot of space, you can get down in there and get something out where your fingers wouldn't fit. Most of them also have a wire cutter on them as well. My wife uses these probably more than any set of pliers that I own. I would also suggest a regular pair of pliers. These, if you'll notice, are actually a little bit longer than most. These are my go-to pliers whenever I actually do need a pair of pliers, because with the extra long handle there, I've got a little more leverage. Can't get them into as tight a space sometimes, but again, you got more leverage. These are also called slip joint pliers, because you have to be able to get your hand around it and get a grip on it, and you can only get so big a nut, bolt, whatever in there and still be able to put any kind of pressure on it. So if it starts getting a little big for it, that slip joint, you'll notice there's a little slot here. You just move the pliers, open them up and put them up into that other slot, and now you can see they open up a lot further and you can still get a grip on things. If it's bigger than that, another really good thing to have are these. And these, this particular type, and I've seen a lot of the newer ones go to this, these are called channel locks, is they just have a little button here that you can use to slide up and down. The older ones, and you can still get them like that, are kind of like the slip joint pliers. You just have slots here, you open it up, you move it to the slot that you need to get it to, you know, the size that you need. But on these, you just have a little button that you push and you can cinch it right up to where you need it to be and still be able to get a grip. These things are awesome for trying to get a can open, like your PVC glue. Whenever you use that, you always end up getting some on the rim. You close it up, the glue dries, and unless you're King Kong, you're not getting that thing open. Well, you can put these on there because they'll get large enough to go around the top of that thing and you can get some torque on it. So good thing to have. Also work great for any plumbing stuff. Most of your plumbing nuts on your faucets and everything are actually pretty large, and these allow you to be able to get something on there and turn it. Now, vice grips. I would suggest everybody has a pair of vice grips for sure. The cool thing about vice grips is, especially if you don't have a lot of hand strength, is that you take these and you put them on whatever size nut you have and you cinch it down to it, right? You open it up, give it just a little bit more of a twist that closes them just a little bit more, and you put them on there, and now we're going to do this just without anything in there, but you'll get the idea. But it's got a cam action here. And so what it does is when you close that thing up and it's on there, now you can squeeze it and it clamps shut and that holds it. You no longer have to hang on to it. It's not dependent on your grip. It keeps a nice tight grip on it the whole time. And then to loosen it, all you do, you got a little lever here, helps break that cam action and it pops back open. These work great for taking out screws that are stripped out. You got enough of a head on that screw that you can get these on there. If you're replacing a deck screw, anything like that, you can get it on there. The other thing that this sometimes can help you with is if you have a bolt and it's rounded off. It no longer has the nice sharp corners on it. We'll talk about that next. Because the other thing I would suggest that you have is a good socket set. Now, keep in mind, there's both SAE, which is standard American equivalent, and there's metric. I bought most of my tools a long time ago, so I've got both, so they're separate sets. You can actually get sets now that will do both. Give you an idea is this right here. If you've seen the video on your car tool kit, I keep one of these in each car because each of these sockets is dual purpose. It'll do both an SAE and a metric equivalent because of the way that the sockets are made. But anyway, in your socket sets, what you're going to have is you're going to have a ratchet and of course your sockets. This particular set has both deep sockets and the shorter version. Deep sockets just for getting in a little further. If that's not enough, It also comes with an extension. Just put it in the back and onto your ratchet, and you've got a little more room to get to things. Now, the other cool thing is, not all of them have it included, was this one also came with what they call a universal joint. And it's just like in your drive shaft on your car, because it can move all kinds of directions. You can't always get straight onto a bolt you're trying to take out or anything like that. So you can be at an angle where you can actually still move your ratchet, but you can keep your socket on whatever it is you're trying to take off or put back in. So big help sometimes. Let's talk about the ratchet a little bit. If you have never used one, this will be a good thing to show you. On this side where the socket goes, it's just a square. You've got a square on the one side of the socket, and you have a little ball bearing right here. If you push the button on the back, that ball bearing falls back down in there. You can put the socket on, and the socket has a little notch carved into it inside. So when you let go of that button, that ball bearing comes back out and it holds your socket on. So that way it doesn't fall off on you. And to get it off, you just push the button, pull it back off. Now the other thing is back here, you've got a forward and reverse. So just depends on if you're taking something off or you're putting it back on. And then that way you don't have to go take it off and move it and that sort of thing. The other thing that I would suggest that you have is a good set of what they call box-in opening wrenches. And the reason they call them that is that one side is open and the other side is closed. I didn't bring it out here. Let me grab one real quick. Now this is just one, but they make, you get a whole set of them. The reason I suggested you have a set of these along with these is if you go to take a bolt off, a lot of times you've got a nut on the other side. You loosen up this side and the other side is just going to spin, you'll never get it off. And they're usually the same size. So this gives you a way to hang on to the nut on one side and ratchet the bolt on the other, or vice versa. Now the nice thing about these is a lot of new ones, instead where this is fixed, but your closed-in wrench used to be solid. You can now get some that what they do is just like the ratchet there, they have that ratcheting action. Now, there's no lever on here to determine which direction it goes. The way you work that is you turn it over and it goes the other way. So it just depends on which way you need it to go. But I would also suggest having a good set of these. All right, let's move on. Oh, I wanted to make sure I told you about these. I want you to have these are commonly called a crescent wrench. It's a brand name, but what it is it's an adjustable wrench. And most of your adjustable wrenches, the nice thing is, kind of like having one of these, it kind of takes the place of a lot of those, is that you've got a way to match it up to whatever size, because you can adjust the opening on here. If you've ever used one of these, you know that you can cinch it up on that nut or bolt head and it's still got play in it. It's kind of sloppy and that sort of thing. But if you bump your hand into it, it moves it just a little bit. You go to put some real torque on it and you'll round off that bolt. Take all those sharp corners off of it, and now something like this, your opening wrench, will no longer go on there and do you any good at all. That's where a pair of vice grips comes in handy if it happens to you. But with this particular adjustable wrench, you cinch it up on the bolt so it's nice and tight, and then a lot like the vice grips, you've got a cam action in here. So once you get it up there, you lock that down and it takes all the play out of there, and it grips it so tight you can actually let go of it. It'll hang on to it. And just like the vice grips, you got a little lever here to break that cam action, and you just pop that, and now you're free to move again. So awesome thing to have. All right, let's talk about knives. I would suggest that you keep a box knife around the house. It's great for opening all the Amazon packages, or if you got to cut up cardboard to put it into the recycle, and you don't have to use your scissors. You will dull your scissors really, really quick, opening packages, cutting cardboard with them, stuff like that. It's just, cardboard is really rough on knives. With a box knife though, the nice thing about it is, this one's kind of like a lock blade. You open it up and it locks in place. Is that you have a razor sharp blade on here, and you just pull the little lever here. They're all a little bit different, but you pull the little lever here, you can just swap out the blades for a fresh one. And now you have another razor sharp knife to use. So again, just a good suggestion to have around with you. This one even has a pocket clip on it. So if you're doing things around the house, putting down linoleum tile, you've got something to carry with you. Let's talk a little bit about saws real quick. Now you can go to the hardware store and you can get you a handsaw, and I would suggest that you have one. They don't require any power, no batteries, you don't have to plug them in. It's just a good, handy thing to have around. I have had instances where it was the only thing I could use, just because of the situation. And you can get any handsaw off the shelf and it'll cut wood. But when we start talking about, in our classes, we start talking about the hand tools, there's actually differences in the types of hand saws that they are, depending on what you're going to do with them. But they'll all cut wood. So it's nice to have a good hand saw. It doesn't need to be this big. Stanley, this is a Stanley. You can find them. They're just shorter versions of this. But this is the one that I have. In fact, all these tools are tools out of my shop. All right, the other thing I would suggest is that you have a hacksaw. A hacksaw is used for cutting through metal. Whether you're cutting aluminum, you do not want to try and cut aluminum with anything that spins really, really fast or is very aggressive. It just won't work. It'll be a nightmare for you. But a hacksaw, as you'll notice probably, where this has really aggressive teeth on it, this one has a whole bunch of little bitty teeth all along the blade here. And that's because it's taken out just a little bit at a time. But it's a great thing to have around the house. You've got something that won't come loose. You got to cut it out, an old bolt. It's just too rusted up on the lawnmower wheel. Anything like that, it really comes in handy. The other thing I found that works really, really well for is if you're having to deal with PVC pipe. This cuts plastic PVC pipe really, really well because it's not too aggressive. And it'll give you actually a pretty clean cut and get through it really fast. Thought I'd show you this. This is just another version of a hacksaw in that it's just a handle. You loosen up, you've got a screw here, you loosen it up, and you can just slide a blade in and out. Just make something that's a little smaller. The other thing that I would suggest that you have, besides your hand tools, is get you a couple of power tools here. We got a drill and an impact. You can get these actually fairly inexpensively. These are a little higher quality. These are actually the ones that my wife uses because they're a little smaller. They're 12 volt. I don't even know if they make them anymore, but they're smaller, so they're a little lighter weight, but they still do the job. On the drill, and when we get to power tools in our classes, we talk more about all the functions, but it's actually fairly simple. The old drills, you used to have a key that went into the chuck. So it looked like a gear around here. You had notches, and then you had a key that would stick in there and go match up to those gears, and you would tighten down your drill bit in there. Nowadays, you can get most of them that have what they call a keyless chuck, which is what this is. So you just put your drill bit in there. This is your forward and reverse button right here. Okay, we want to go forward to tighten it up, and you just hang on to the chuck up here, spin it up, hold it real good, and your drill bit's in there. To take it out, you just put it in reverse, hang on to it here, pull the trigger, and your drill bit comes out. So actually fairly easy to use. It's got a, excuse me, there we go, rechargeable battery pack to it. Now let's talk about the impact. The impact, whoever invented this is my hero, I'll tell you. Because if you're trying to drive screws into a deck, you've got some loose screws, they're rusted on your deck, and you need to replace one, this is going to drive those screws in. The thing that I would caution you about is these things have a lot of oomph to them, so you have to make sure that you keep this bit in that screw and keep pressure on it. As soon as you let up on that pressure, this thing's going to spin really, really fast, and it's going to strip out the inside of that screw. So, just a word of caution. Now these things are fairly easy to operate. Again, you just have a forward and reverse on them. And on this particular one, you pull the collar and the bit will come right out. Some of them have a little release that's up underneath here. And to put a bit in, you just stick it in there and it grabs it. It's a lot like the ratchet on your socket. You have a ball bearing in here that when you pull that collar, allows that ball bearing to free float and it'll come out because you've got a notch on the back of these bits that it fits into. The other cool thing about these is, excuse me, when you get a set of bits for one of these, look in there. A lot of times they have, you can get in the kit a 1/4 inch, 3/8, and a 1/2 inch drive for your sockets. So you can actually put that in here, and if you've got a 1/4 inch set, a 3/8 inch set, or 1/2 inch set, you can use the sockets on that and use this to spin them in and out. I would be the other thing I'm going to caution you about is, now these aren't all that big. Mine are a lot bigger. The 20 volt, I use 20 volt impact and drills because I'm usually doing much bigger projects than she is. But they have a lot of power. I have actually, when I first got mine, didn't realize how much power it had, and I was putting a lag bolt into some wood with a socket on one of these and put it in there and kept it on there too long and literally broke a 3/8 inch lag screw. So they've got a lot of power, but it's a good thing to have. Now, since you're getting some of these, the other thing I would suggest is you can get them for not a whole lot of money, $14, $15, I guess, but just get you a set of drill bits. And this one here has, what is it, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This thing's got at least a dozen different size drill bits in it and several of each. And that way you've got some decent drill bits around. These come in really handy. Again, if you're trying to hang pictures in drywall, sometimes you have to put in the anchors, the plastic anchors. So you're going to need that, the right size drill bit, a hammer to get them in there flush, and then a way to run the screw in into the anchor. Now the other thing that I'll talk about here is, I suggest you have them in your car as well. You can get variety packs, but our zip ties absolutely come in handy for all kinds of things. If you've never used a zip tie, they've got little serrations along the inside of the plastic here, and then inside the head it has a little plastic deal that'll go down into those notches and holds it in place. So you just take the tag end, put it through the head after you've put it around whatever you're trying to hold together, and you just cinch it down nice and tight. And you can take them off. Actually, they'll hold nice and tight, but you can take them off with a pair of scissors and then replace it. Now, where these, in the house, I probably use these more for long cords, computer cords, I don't know, maybe your toaster, coffee maker, anything like that. It comes with a really long cord. You don't need it that long. You don't want it laying all over the counter. You can kind of wind it up and put one of these around it, keep it in place, organize all the cords behind your computer, stuff like that. Anyway, good thing to have. Now for a couple of hacks. First off, didn't make it on the list because you do have, with this video, you have a PDF you can download that lists all of these tools. That way you can check off what you've already have, or if you go to the hardware store, you're looking to fill out the list, you've got a way to check off as you get each thing. But one of the other things I would suggest is gloves. I can't tell you how many pairs of gloves I've gone through in my life, and every time I think, well, I'm just going to do this little thing real quick, and didn't put my gloves on, always end up with a splinter or a cut, something where I wish I would have put my gloves on. But yeah, just for around the house, if you're doing anything really heavy, I would get a good pair of leather gloves. But these are really inexpensive. They've got kind of a rubbery texture to the inside, gives you a good grip, whether you're using a hand rake or a broom or tools, anything like that. They work really good. I would also suggest that you keep around a roll of duct tape. Comes in handy more times than you'll ever imagine, actually. Along with duct tape, another good hack would be, I always keep a roll of the blue low adhesion painter's tape. Again, don't wrap a package with that stuff, but if you have to just touch up some paint somewhere, you want to make sure it doesn't get on anything else, you can run you a piece of that and it'll come right back off. I think that's everything that I wanted to talk about for this. And like I said, you've got your PDF so you can check all this stuff out, or check it off as you go along. Oh, flashlight. That's what I wanted. I passed over the flashlight. Make sure you've got a good flashlight in the house. Again, if you have the power go out, you want to know where this is, you want to make sure that it works. I would caution against having a regular flashlight that just runs on alkaline batteries, because you'll forget about them. Before you know it, 2 years has gone by or more, you go to use the flashlight, it doesn't work, you open it up, only to find that the battery's corroded and it's ruined the inside of your flashlight as well, and you gotta go throw everything away. I've gone to rechargeables because I don't really have that problem. I also use these a lot, so I'm always keeping them charged. I don't really forget about them. I even carry one in my pocket, which is just a smaller version of that. Didn't used to carry a flashlight with me all the time, but this little thing doesn't take up a lot of room in my pocket. It's not heavy, has a rechargeable battery in it, and now instead of groping around in the dark, whether it's under the hood, under the car seat, I got a handy little light. So that's what I would suggest. They even make some that you can plug into the wall somewhere in your house, and it just stays there. It keeps it charged, and it's ready to use. You just pull it off the wall. I think they even have some that have like a night light on them. So when you turn out the lights at night, you got a little night light associated with it, so you can find that flashlight when you need it, pull it off, and use it. So anyway, that's everything that I would suggest as far as just a basic toolkit for your house. Of course, like I said, if you get into home improvements, you're going to end up with a lot more, mostly in the way of power tools, just to make your life easier and a little quicker. And we'll cover in our classes hand tools, power tools, whether you plug them in or they have batteries, gas-powered tools. We'll talk about welding and plumbing and a little bit of electrical. And all of it will be really, really basic stuff. But again, don't forget to check us out and go become a member of the Facebook group at My Home Tool Class. And if you need to have any questions for me, the best way to reach me is my email address, which is Stephen@myhometoolclass.com. Again, Stephen@myhometoolclass.com. Thanks for joining us, and I hope this helped you out, and I look forward to seeing you in our regular classes. Take care, friend.